Yes. We are back. We are back. Finally, after like a month. I do apologize to our listeners and viewers. A lot of things have happened in my life, but we're back. That's all that's matters. And it looks like Gary has like added like way more photos in the back of his room right there. Maybe it's just
No, it's just where the camera is. It's
uh,
exactly the same. Yeah.
did he get a new camera? It looks
No.
clearer. It looks so much better, Gary. I don't know why. I'm just happy to see you, Gary. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's been a long time, and I've obviously seen you travel everywhere, covering
Yeah.
every event.
I've been going places and things.
Places and things, yes. Obviously, the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. Definitely check out Gary's channel, Texas Boxing Scene, as well. He's been, like I said, all over the place. You know, really, I think doing the Lord's work, as they would say. Covering, I think, everything from like small shows to just covering the big shows, covering everyone in the Texas area, of course. But you've been traveling a lot too. I feel like you've gone even outside the state to cover events.
I went to, well, it was supposed to be Virgil Ortiz. That didn't happen. That was in your neck of the woods. But it was still a good night of boxing. The Roca Blair Cobb fight, I was at that. But yeah, I mean, I've been trying to stay busy,
Dude, what happened to Blair Cobbs, man? He's supposed to be the future.
Maybe like Alexis Rocha is a lot better than we thought, which means Rashidi Ellis, who dominated him, is a lot better than we thought. Who's now on PBC, so should get a big fight. You would hope, you would think, right? I mean, better than what he's been getting with Golden Boy, right? Because he didn't get Virgil. He got Rocha, who he beat, but those were like two prospects. He never gotten a proven guy, and hopefully he gets that now with PBC. I mean, I think they should do, and I don't know if they want to do this, but I think it's a good fight for Ellis Barrios.
Ooh.
I don't know if they want to do that to Barrios. You know, get him a win, get him right. You know, try to get him back on. I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying he can't beat Ellis, or Abel Ramos would be a good fight for him too.
Abel Ramos is a much better option in my mind. It makes way more sense to where like both of them are at.
But Ellis, but Ramos coming off a loss too. Lost to the same card.
Yes, but I mean, Barrios got knocked out by Gervonta Davis, who is like a super featherweight if he really wants to be.
Let's call him a lightweight. He's a lightweight.
He is, but I mean, like he could be a super featherweight.
He could be, but he doesn't like to make weight. No, he beat Leo Santa Cruz at 130. Right? I mean, I know both belts were on the line, but the fight was at 130.
But I think that Abel Ramos, one would be just a better fight right now. Barrios needs a tune-up. Like Abel Ramos is already sort of the guy that like he's taken losses. Like he was never really like the golden child of anything. Barrios was like, not to use this word in a disparaging way because it obviously can be, but like he was manufactured by PBC to be like a title contender, right? And he's taken 2 big L's in fights that probably he shouldn't have took, to be quite honest. I think they were both bad matchups. If you know, honestly,
I don't agree with you with the Tank fight. I mean, look, it's a big. He got $2 million for that fight. I mean, I thought he was. I picked him to win. I thought he was too big for Tank. I did. I don't think that was a bad fight. Look, if he wins, he doesn't get full credit because he's fighting a smaller guy, but he gets a $2 million paycheck and he gets a pay-per-view and he gets his name out there, right? Like he gets him. If he wins that fight, it gets him another big fight because he's got a big win on a big stage. That did 250,000 pay-per-view sales. That was a pretty big fight. I thought if he wins that, you know, look, people are gonna second guess him because he's fighting a small guy. Fine. But any publicity is good publicity. It gets his name out there. It gives him a big name on his resume. And then he goes on to something bigger and better. He didn't win that fight. He ended up getting knocked out in the 11th round, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
And what I thought was a great fight. I thought he was winning the fight. I thought he dominated the early rounds with his jab. And And then Tank came on and got him out late in the fight. After Floyd had that meltdown, you're losing on the unofficial cards. I need you to do something special. And he did it. And yeah, the Thurman fight, I wouldn't have made that fight. I don't get that fight. I didn't get it for either guy. I mean, Barrios never fought at 147. If Thurman wants to fight Spence next, right? If that's his goal, I want to take this fight. Why not fight a proven welterweight? Why fight a guy? You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand the fight for either guy. I really didn't understand for Barrios. Like, take a tune-up fight, get right. You're coming off a knockout, get acclimated to the weight. I asked his co-trainer, right? I said, you should fight Robert Guerrero. I thought that was a good name for Barrios. This is after the Tank loss. I said, I think you should fight Guerrero. That's a good fight for you. And Barrios is like, I don't care. I'll fight anybody. You know, what a fighter would say, right? And so I said, okay, great. Go right to the Ugas fight. Go straight into the Ugas fight. And his trainer's like, no, we're not doing that. But they take a more difficult fight. They fight Thurman. You know, again, the fighter wants to fight. The fighter's going to get the fight. It was a big payday. He got another 7-figure payday. He's going to take it. I'm not saying not to take it. I just think it was a bad fight for him. Especially if he'd come off a win. If he had beat Tank, all right. I mean, I guess what are you going to say, right? But coming off a loss, that's a bad fight.
I think in hindsight, even the Tank fight's bad because he got knocked out by a guy that was significantly smaller than him. Went into a fight, and just the culmination of it, right? Like the combination of it, I should say, like it's not just a one thing in isolation. Like both things have now led to Barrios being really out of anyone's title contention, thoughts. Let's be honest. Like he's going to face 3 guys probably next, beat them all to get back into facing a Spence, Ugas, a Thurman, something like that. It's going to take him a while.
The good news is he's 26, so he's got time.
True.
Right? He's still young. And the other good news is the welterweight division is kind of like, heavyweight South, right? Like you don't need to be in a title fight to get a pretty big money fight. Like there are names out there, which he can fight, which will give him a big payday in a non-title fight, right? Like if he fought Butiev, he get a decent payday. I mean, he's not going to get $10 million for the fight, right? But he gets a pretty good payday. If it headlines a card, you would think. He fights Abel Ramos. It gets him. So I'd say win one tune-up fight. I mean, a tune-up fight. Middle of the card, just get a win, get acclimated to the weight, get a win. Okay. Come back 4 or 5 months later and fight one of those. Jamal James is still around. Something like that. Fight a guy like that. If you beat that guy, you're not going to get a title shot next because all the belts are going to be in 1 or 2 hands. But it puts you in the picture. So beat a tune-up, beat a Jamal James and Abel Ramos. And then it's going to be tough because you got Boots, you got Nigel Benn Jr., and you have Virgil Ortiz. I mean, it's going to be tough to get any belt in that weight division, but it puts his name in the discussion if he beats a guy like Jamal James. So I'd say 2 more wins makes him relevant again.
Anyways. Moving from Barrios. Gary, obviously the big news in the boxing world has been something that we've been talked about, I feel like years ago, is Daniel Kinahan, who's now been sanctioned by the U.S. I want your thoughts on it, Gary. I mean, everybody in terms of like their company has moved away from Kinahan in terms of putting out a press release. Top Rank, Matchroom, Probellum have all put out, even MTK, LOL. They put out, a press release saying we're no longer working with them, communicating with them. Certain fighters are still saying that they're working with them and fuck everything like that, like Jonah Carroll. But Gary, your thoughts on one? I mean, obviously the U.S. sanctioning him, I guess, whether that is going to amount to anything, whether that really long term has any effect. And 2, I mean, the distancing of all these companies, is that going to amount to anything?
I mean, technically, legally, his name is not attached to MTK Global in any way, even though he was the founder of MGM, which changed his name to MTK. He is associated with another sports management group by a different name, whose clients are Patty Barnes, Billy Joe Saunders. It's all the MTK guys. It's a weird situation that I'm trying to fully understand it, but his name is not legally tied. Now, what does that mean? It's legal. Well, what do we know is not always the same as what we can prove, right? I don't know what they can but legally he's not connected to MTK Global in any way. So MTK is going to say that. But he's there at everything, right? He's a founder of the organization, which just changed their name, right? Like it's the same company. It just changed his name in 2017 to MTK from MGM because MGM was obviously in conflict with, the hotel and casino. What I don't understand is you knew that he was connected, at least in a distance, to MTK Global from day one. So why is it like if you're Top Rank or whatever, ESPN, why do you have an issue with it now when you knew there's no news here? Like I don't think this is news. Do you? Like the sanctions are news, fine. But we knew he was connected to Kinahan. Kinahan was connected with MTK from the beginning. Like that's not new. What's changed? That the government said his name? The U.S. government said his name?
Has the UK sanctioned him?
I think so.
Have they?
The Jake Donovan story said 2 countries, but didn't say what the other one was. The U.S. obviously didn't say what the other one was.
Huh. I'm assuming it's gonna be one of 2 of our allies, right? Because
Canada.
US.
I mean,
Canada. It could be Canada.
Like, who cares then? Like, if it's Canada, who cares? It's Iceland. Like, okay, great.
Hey, there's fights in like Montreal.
There's big fights in Montreal, but you can easily work around that, right? It's not Vegas. I mean, yeah, do you want to put a fight in Montreal once in a while? Probably. It's a good fight city. Is it going to kill your business if you can't put a fight in Montreal? Not at all.
Daniel Edwards in the chat saying that we need to stop accusing Kinahan of illegal activity before he gets sued. The bounty.
I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I have not, and I will not.
This is all alleged too, as well. Allegedly.
You know what the FBI stands for, Mr. Edwards? Forever bothering Italians. I'm not taking the side of the federal government in this. They make big deals out of nothing all the time.
I will say this though, that boxing in a historic sense started out as like a racket for the mob. Okay.
Matt still thinks it's just a way to launder money, just cleaning dollars.
It's historically a money laundering scheme. Okay. Now, obviously, there's been some, in a sense, changes to the boxing system since the 40s and 50s. We've included more sanctioning bodies. It's not just like the Ring Magazine and like the New York sanctioning
New York State Athletic Commission.
Yeah, like them giving belts away. Like it's changed in that sense. We have I guess more promoters. More divisions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of small promoters, but like at the top of the, the top of the pyramid, it's still basically the same people.
You have things like the Ali Act. You have things like certain investigations, like into the IBF. Into bribery charges for them, which they were found guilty of. Boxing has a long record of just being a very dirty sport. And again, it started in a sense as a racket for the mob. In its heyday, in its glory days in the U.S. especially, it was a racket for the mob. There's no doubt about it. I mean, every major fighter was connected to a very limited amount of mafia members. You have the Frankie Carbos, Blinky Palermos. You have some members like that they're just all connected to. Okay, and that goes into again the late 50s. That really didn't change into the Don King era, as most people know as well. Like, this isn't new information. So the idea that you have a multi-billion-dollar Irish cartel, again, allegedly, connected to all these different promoters, especially in their own region, of course, in the Irish and UK market. And a lot of these shows, I mean, we've questioned them before, guys. Like, how are they making money? Like, I'm just people can connect the dots here. Like, this isn't like rocket science here. But this has always been the way it's done. And the reality is, and this is the unfortunate reality, even if you're very morally against it, which I'm inclined to, take that side, I guess. I think multi-billion-dollar cartels should not be involved in our combat sports. Just my thoughts.
I got a question for you, and but continue.
But there's no real systemic change that's going to happen there. If allegedly Kinahan is doing this stuff, blah 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 blah, and he goes down, there's going to be another entity that takes his place to fulfill the needs of the boxing market in all of its dirty ways, because it's always done that. When one entity leaves, another one takes its place. That's just how it is. But Gary, I mean, that's really my thoughts on that.
So I got a question for you. I was hanging out with the homie Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, Freeway Ricky, legend. He's involved in boxing. He's got a fighter in Austin named Floyd Schofield. Should he not be allowed in boxing? Should boxing? I mean, it's not you can't not allowed, right? Like legally, he's allowed to. But I'm saying, should boxing shy away from him?
I mean, I don't know his. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know his present.
It's a little before your time, right?
I know that he was connected back in the day, and
he wasn't connected. He was the game. He was the game.
I know he moved. I know he allegedly, just to, again, because apparently Daniel Edwards in the chat is very concerned about us being sued. Allegedly, he moved a lot of weight back in the day, but I don't know what his present conditions are.
He moved weight like an offensive lineman. I mean, like they said, you ever watch like the American Gangster show, like on A&E, like they have like the like all the cartels, like all the dope kings, and it said in the 80s, inflation adjusted, and it's hard to, this is hard because the money's not legal, right? They estimate that he'd be a billionaire by today's dollars back in the 80s.
I mean, I can believe that.
Rick Ross was the game. Like, and you just talk to him, and like you think, like I have a capitalist mindset, right? Like I think, my mind's always processing. And then you talk to an actual shark, and you just feel like you're at the kiddie table, right? Like his mind is so sharp, right? And like it's always on business and making money. Like it was really intriguing to talk to him when you actually when you talk to I'm a shark. No, you're not. He is. It's like you play basketball. Like I'm a pretty good basketball player, and then you play with like an NBA player. It's like I'm not good at all. I'm terrible. All right, that's what it was like talking to
him. It's weird that like the Rick Ross that most people know nowadays is like a former corrections officer, and was literally he was a police officer. Like, and the real Rick Ross is someone that is like really an OG in the truest sense. But Gary, I know you had a question for me. I don't know what the question was.
The question was about Rick Ross, right? Because we're talking about Kinahan, and like I don't know if you know. Do you know what Rick Ross got charged with? Why he got life in jail? You know what his sentence was? He got 3. It was 3 strikes and you're out. He had 3 possession charges. That's it. They never pinned him. They never got him on any of them, right? They just got him on. And then he had the laws changed while he was in jail. He wrote like congressmen and judges, and he got the laws changed to get rid of 3 strikes out. And he basically got himself out of jail. Right? His brain is different, man. Like, it just operates at another level. But so they never really pinned him in anything, right? Just like they've never really, like Kinahan's dad, they have Christy Kinahan. Yes. He's got all types of stuff, but the son, they've never really put anything on him. So, I mean, again, what we think, what we know, and what we can prove is often 2 different things.
Yeah, I mean, look, like George W. Bush has never been tried for war crimes. Should he? I mean, I guess that's your opinion.
What would, like, if I don't want to get into a political, but if that's not a war crime, like what would qualify?
Dude, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Digressing though. I think that like I understand that this element's going to be there in the sport. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know what, we need to do everything we can to get money laundering and racketeering out of the sport. because the sport's built on that. Like that's just like a reality to face, allegedly. And I I think that again, it seems, and we talked about this before. It seems like these sharks are circling around. Sharks being like the respective governments involved here, circling around Kinahan, and eventually he will go down. Like that's just how the justice system works. It takes a long time, but they get the big sharks because they're the easiest ones to get. The only way they don't get him is if he is that truly deeply connected with like the Gulf states, which is a whole nother factor that I'm not. I couldn't sit here and be like, I've seen picture with these people, these people. I know what they represent in the Gulf states and the powers that they represent. I don't know that. I do know he's been pictured with a lot of big time ministers of a lot of big time countries in that area, and that could be a shield of protection. So there's a lot of elements here, I do ultimately believe, like you said, though, that Kinahan, even if he's not like legally connected to these companies anymore, he's still going to be in the room or on the phone with them. Like the idea that Tyson Fury is not on the phone with Kinahan still would be ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like the fact that like you would think that Kinahan doesn't get his cut still, since he's been advising these people forever, is ridiculous. Like that's just how it works. He's going to get his cut one way or another.
I just don't see what's changed, right? Like you knew he was connected to MTK in some way before this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you didn't know that. So what's really changed?
Wait, Gary, come on. Hold on. Let me show the picture again, okay? There's no way that any of these people know who Kinahan was, right? Nope. Like, look, all right, Tyson Fury, like he was just at the bar, and that was a fat Tyson Fury stage, okay? Like, he was just chumming it up with some dude at the bar. Okay, Bob Arum, he's old and senile, so he takes pictures of anyone. Eddie Hearn, there's a distance there. See, a visual distance, physical. Mauricio Suleiman, not the sharpest.
Oh, there's Mauricio. There it is.
Yeah. Frank Warren, he's not even making eye contact. So there you go. See, it totally disconnected from them. Damien, no.
I don't know.
It is weird how they're trying to say like we're like, especially like Bob Arum, I feel like trying to make that statement like that he's not, that he doesn't really know Kinahan, but he won't communicate with them anymore or whatever. That was weird. I think ultimately, like you said, nothing really is going to change. Frank in the chat, it's all Photoshop.
Oh, Photoshop. That's professionally done. That's professional quality right there.
Professional quality right there. Okay. Any other thoughts, Gary, on this issue? I mean, from a political, moral, principled standpoint, or
I mean, it's hard for anyone in boxing to take a moral stance on anything. On anything, because their hands are dirty too. Like, just you can keep your stuff in your closet. I'll keep my stuff in my closet. Let's not spread. Let's not put light on anything anywhere. Okay.
And Gary, like I mean, politically, I'm inclined to a different persuasion than a lot of things that boxing entails. Like boxing is like capitalism in like its rawest, like dirtiest form. Especially at least boxing in the professional sense as we know it, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is that there's no like elements and forces of change here in the system. Like the element, the forces you have to do to get legislation passed in the US, in the UK, is so insurmountable right now for any political lobbyist, party, organization, whatever, boxing organization. Like it's not going to happen. Like in their minds, they got the Ali Act, they're good. I don't think the UK cares at all about this issue. I've never seen any real debate talked about on, UK Parliament about boxing. I've seen a little bit over the years for like MMA to be included in the Ali Act, but that's about it. And that didn't even go anywhere. So I don't see like any elements of change here. If people really wanted Kinahan out of the sport, truly, there's no force to do that. They can just distance themselves legally, and everyone can still make money.
But no one wants to raise any. No one wants to bring any attention to the sport. Right, just keep your eyes off of it. Don't worry about it. And no one wants their their history pulled up either. So I mean, it's like going to a girl. Did you see your boyfriend was at the strip club? Where were you? I was at the strip club with them. All right, just forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like he could bring down everyone with him. So just keep your mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? Like just keep your mouth shut. Just don't say anything.
I just can't wait till like more there's more like outbursts of this in a sense, because like obviously we had the Tyson Fury Dylan White press conference that happened like I don't know, like an hour or so ago. It felt like, and no one asked any questions about this. Dan Rayfield included, who's like one of the big time journalists in the sport. Zero questions about this. Zero questions about Tyson Fury's connections to Kinahan. Basic question of like, are you still advised by him? Nothing. There's gonna be zero media attention on this for a little bit, but hopefully we do get some brave people out there that interview these former or still MTK fighters, Probellum fighters, whatever, that are all connected to Kinahan, and we get some like angry outbursts. That'd be funny. I'll take that. That'd be a win for me.
Look, Dan Rayfield is not going to ask any hard hitting questions, right? I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on him, but he's not going
His
to
hotel rooms get paid by the promoter.
Right. He's not gonna ask hard hitting questions, right? So you can cross that one off. But like listen, I have no reason to suspect Daniel Kinahan of any wrongdoing in anything. Oh. What's wrong with Daniel Kinahan? He doesn't even have a criminal history as far as I know. Does he have a criminal record?
Maybe caught for jaywalking.
Maybe caught for jaywalking, right? I don't know.
Has he been charged with any like petty crimes?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I don't know, but like he doesn't have any racketeering charges. He doesn't have any criminal organization charges, right? He doesn't have any organized crime charges.
Nothing like that. No.
Yeah. So why? I mean, why would I ask him about? Does he have a speeding ticket? I don't know. Probably. Who knows? I don't know. Does he have jaywalking charges or I don't know, petty little crimes? I guess I don't know. I mean, how is that? How's that relevant? Lots of you want to bring up everyone's traffic tickets and got into a fight in the 8th grade. Like what do we want to get into here? I have no reason to suspect anything different.
Well, I mean, there might be some reason, but it's all alleged.
It's alleged.
Allegedly, yes.
But this is like the Deshaun Watson thing, right? Like Deshaun Watson he says, I'm not going to play unless I get a Pat Mahomes contract. And Houston's like, the hell you are. You're going to play. He's like, no, I'm not. And then all of a sudden, the next day, there are 22 complaints against him, all of which the judge got dismissed. You're telling, does that seem legitimate to you? Like, the guy's got no issues. Then all of a sudden, he says, I'm not playing and I'll sit out a year unless I get a Pat Mahomes contract. And then all of a sudden, there's 22 different complaints, all of them which get dismissed by a judge.
It happens, Gary.
I don't know what happened over there in Houston, but they were. I mean, does that seem legitimate to you? The day after he says, I'll sit out an entire season unless I get a Pat Mahomes contract. Then all of a sudden there's 22 complaints, 22 of sexual, misconduct and things like that. And all of them get dismissed by the judge, throws them all out. That situation is extremely weird.
Is our justice system legitimate? I mean, that is a deep question for our time, I guess, Gary. It's not. But digressing, Gary, before we get into Spence Ugas, remind me, because obviously we've been talking about other stuff and I've forgotten now. What have been like the last few big fights that we've not been able to talk about that we've missed, so to speak, on the show? Maybe people in the chat can remind us as well. Scott, NGNP.
We had we should talk about the Chris Colbert loss. Chris Colbert got beat down.
Man, that was rough. Dude, we've talked so much. Like we've hyped up Colbert so much, and he looked so bad.
I got people saying you thought Chris Colbert was good. Yeah, so did you. So did everybody else. I don't know what that was. That was like a horrible performance. Maybe he'll bounce back and he'll be fine. But like that fight made no sense. He was kind of just hanging up against the ropes, right? Like, where's his skills with Chris Colbert's a good infighter. I mean, that's not his forte, but he's a good infighter. He didn't do anything.
Shakur Stevenson would have destroyed him. Like bad. Like Oscar Valdez would win too.
No, let's not go crazy. I don't get Oscar Valdez. I really don't. He's got one good win on his career, and we saw what's left of Burchell. I'm not taking the win away from him. I picked Burchell. Fine.
Hold on. R.I.P. to Burchell, man. That was rough. That's what I'm
saying. We see what's left of Burchell, right? I mean, I'm not, no disrespect. I love Burchell. He was one of my favorite fighters at that time to watch for a 3-4 year span. But he's done. You can't have fights like that over and over again. I think you're gonna have a long career. It doesn't work that way.
Valdez by KO, says Scott.
Over
Colbert.
Disagree. Disagree. The performance from Colbert was bad, no doubt. But I don't understand the attraction to Valdez. I don't get it.
I don't know where Colbert goes from here. That was a really bad performance. And he never had too much what would be the way to say it? He never got the push that other fighters had. Right? Honestly speaking. So I don't know where he goes from here. It's gonna be tough.
Well, he had that reality show documentary, which
that all fizzled out.
I know. Out. Which I thought he was one of the best prospects in the sport. I really did. I put his name up there with the Bam Rodriguez's and the Virgil Ortiz's of the world at that time.
Yeah, look at Bam. I mean, you're right about one.
I wasn't right about Verge.
We have yet to see.
I wasn't right about Brandon Figueroa.
He lost.
So he lost.
He lost.
That's it. He lost. That's so he lost one fight to a unified champ, and that's it. In a fight where most people thought he won. That's the knock on him. He lost a close fight to a great fighter. Okay, it was most people thought he won.
He arguably lost to Seha,
who missed weight by 2 weight classes.
Besides,
I think there's a better argument that Seha beat him than Fulton beat him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To be honest for a second and stop joking. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. You are.
It's like Laura. Laura won all of his losses and lost all of his draws.
You're right about
the Casado fight. He lost. The Molina fight. He lost that fight. All of his losses though. The Canelo fight, right? He won those fights.
I definitely think you're right about Brandon Figueroa. You're right about that. Bam. Barrios, you're not. Tanahara, you're not.
Okay, Tanahara, I'll take that L. When did I say that Barrios was the next great thing, though?
Did you pick him against Tank?
I picked him against Tank. Did you pick him against Tank?
No.
All right.
Wait, I mean, look, Gary, I'll be honest. That was a long time ago. I don't remember. I'm going to assume I didn't, because I would have, even if I didn't believe Tank would win, I would pick him to win because he's facing Barrios. Just to piss you off. I would do that. So yeah, I picked Tank to win. And obviously I picked Thurman to win. Because I thought that was a horrible matchup.
So did I. I think everyone picked Thurman to win. Chris Algieri, because I was at the Bam fight that night in Arizona. Algieri told me that he thought Mario had a good chance. I was like, okay.
Well, that's because, I'll be honest, Barrios fights in a similar fashion to Algieri, where he doesn't have a lot of pop. But
Barrios has way more power than you give him credit for.
Who's he knocked out?
Velasco. And then he knocked down
Isn't that a gas station?
With a body shot. You sleep on Barrios's power, right? He was fighting at 130, draining himself, right? And that's when he didn't look that good. and then that's when he got with Andre Ward's trainer, Verge. And they went up to 140. So they went straight from 130 to 140. And then he had the 8-9 knockouts in a row. Like, people sleep on Barrios' power because he had that stretch where he was fighting in the wrong weight class, draining himself to make 130, and he wasn't knocking people out. Once he went to his correct weight class, which was 140, he started knocking everyone out again.
Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about a fight that I know we didn't pick, or at least we didn't have a show to pick on. So I don't know what your prediction was, but Lubin Fedorov. What was your prediction for that one, Gary?
I'd have picked Lubin. Although I wouldn't have picked him with any confidence, with any great confidence, but I'd have picked Lubin. I thought Lubin could outwork him. He could get in and out on him and do enough to win the fight. But it was a great fight. And Lubin's face was a disaster. Like, that goes up there on a list of like worst. Rockman's face against Holyfield. My girl Esparza's cut against
she almost
Sinisa.
Bad.
And this, I mean, and what was the Badu Jackman? What?
Sorry, side point there. Did you see Sinisa Estrada shit talking Oscar?
I was at the fight. I didn't hear what she said. I hadn't got back and watch it.
It was on the telecast. I think it was on like Instagram. Like, she said it on like her Instagram story.
Okay.
That, like, Oscar doesn't pay her. Like screw them. Like, all this shit. She was talking mad shit about Oscar and Golden Boy.
Oscar doesn't pay anyone though, so I don't think this is woman. I don't think this is gender specific. Oscar just doesn't pay. Like, that's why he can't sign anyone anymore, right? Like, he's still stuck in the 90s.
But back to Fedorov. Yeah, Oscar sucks. But back to Fedorov. Okay, who is? I mean, come on, Gary. He could beat anyone in the division. If he fought Castano or Charlo, the winner of that fight, he can win that. Guaranteed.
It's tough because how do you train for a guy who's 6'7" or 6'6", whatever he is? How do you train for a guy like that?
7 feet tall.
You can't get sparring. Like, where you get a 6'6" sparring partner from? Right? It's like I'm fighting a guy with 3 arms. How do I get sparring for that? I don't know. I don't know that you can. So that stuff. He's still so hittable. Like, it's tough to fight him because even though he fights mostly on the inside, you can't get away from him because he just, like, he covers so much. He can cut off the ring, and then if you do get away from him in one step, he's back on top of your head and his chest, and he's pounding away. Like, you can't. He's functionally long. Like, you can't get away from him. It's like Anthony Davis. Like, he just blocks your shot. Like, he's 20 feet away from you, just blocks your shot because he's so long. He's going to be tough to beat. I still think Jesus Ramos is one of the great prospects in the sport. If Ramos fought Fedorov next, I think Ramos would figure out a way to beat him.
I think. And to clean it up, Daniel, thank you. Allegedly. I should just retitle the entire show, just allegedly. But look, I just saw Castano spar, right? Yesterday. He is extremely small for the division. I
said it looks like a 147 guy.
Like to the point where, like, it worries me, to be honest. I only saw him with one sparring partner, and he did really good work against that sparring partner. And I'm not saying that he can't win against like Fedorov and beat him to the body, but I can just see Fedorov just beating him up. Like, Castano is a guy that if he's really in a war like that with Fedorov, he may not be the one to make it out, in a sense.
I was wondering about that Castano, right? Because you see a lot of Argentine fighters fighting. Like, you saw this with Lucas Matisse comes to mind, where he's fighting at 147. He was a lightweight. Like, why he was small on 40? Why is he going to? Same thing with Maidana. I know Maidana didn't like to cut weight later in his career, but like Maidana was a lightweight fighting at 40 and 47. Like, is that a thing? Like, are they accustomed? Do they typically spar with much bigger guys? Because I see a trend here of fighters from Argentina fighting in the wrong weight class.
I mean, I don't know his usual routine of sparring partners, so I can't say specifically who he's like in there with all the time. Like, who he was in there with was a guy that's can bounce from 147 to 154. So another guy that's around his size. You know what I mean? Charlo is bigger than him. I've seen Charlo. I've met Charlo. And obviously we've seen the fight. Charlo is much bigger than him.
Charlo's way big. Yeah, but I'm saying you look at Charlo and he looks big. Castano looks like a welterweight. Like I haven't, but just looking at him on TV, and you can't always tell on TV. Like Danny Garcia doesn't look big on TV. You stand next to Danny Garcia, you see how like heavy he is, like his arms and his chest, and it's like he's a heavy guy. Like, so I mean, I've never stood next to Castano, but like on TV, he doesn't look big at all. He looks like a welterweight on TV, and you're saying the same thing. Charlo's huge, right? Like I don't know. Like he's got to go up to 160 at some point. His brother's got to go up to 68.
Like we've been next to each other, right, Gary? Like we've met each other.
Yeah.
Like I'm taller than Castano.
And then he's not. Yeah, he's not. You know, he's not built like Canelo, right? Like
I will say this: he was built. Pause.
Was he?
Yeah, I mean he was looking really in shape, and it's before 4 weeks out from the fight. I think that's what is probably the hang up is that he does have a lot of muscle. He has a lot of muscle mass like Canelo does in that sense. That's who I thought of when I saw him in the ring. It was like he's like a Canelo that doesn't have the head movement, that doesn't have certain things, but he's like that size, like that built in this division, which Canelo obviously used to be in. I think the reason why Castano does so well against Charlo is the same reason why I might pick Fundora to beat Charlo. He's going to beat him on the inside. His technical ability can match Charlo's. Charlo is just too selective with the shots at times, which leads him to be inactive. He does have the power to knock out both guys. He has the power and the technical ability to win rounds and to hurt them on given occasions. But there's a reason Castano arguably won that fight. And there's a reason why I think Fundora could possibly beat up Charlo. Not in the same way of Lubin, of course, but I can see him winning a fight against Charlo stylistically. With Castano, it's a war, but I just think he could win that war because of his size, because of his power, because of his volume. I mean, Fundora throws an insane amount of punches. His shot selection is high volume, high accuracy. You know, every shot has power to it. I don't know. I just think that Fundora could be like the next, not the next guy, so to speak, but he could definitely win a belt in this division and move up to 160 and win a belt. Like him against Triple G, I would pick Fundora right now. Call me crazy.
His chin will stand. He's gonna get hit, right? Like he's gonna get hit. I mean, would I pick him against Triple G? Probably. Triple G didn't look great. Canelo's gonna feast on him in the trilogy.
So bad, so bad.
You wanted this. I was like, I don't really need to see this a third time. You were like, well, we need closure. Well, we're gonna get closure.
Well, I'm happy because all you fucking Triple G fans that are still hanging around for some reason, will finally shut up. Please. I still see people say like, "Oh, he beat Canelo both times." Blah blah blah. He is the real better fighter. It's like, no, he's not. No. Triple G arguably lost to Daniel Jacobs, for fuck's sake. Stop it.
Canelo lost to Austin Trout.
No, he didn't. And secondly,
and Triple G lost to Derevyanchenko. Let's be real.
Oh,
I thought he lost all those fights. I had him losing to Jacobs. I had him losing to Derevyanchenko. And I had him losing both fights to Canelo. The best fight, I think the one you could score for him, like most realistically, was the first Canelo fight. And I didn't. I scored it for Canelo.
I can see a scorecard for Triple G in that fight. So I won't really argue that, but people still say
that's the only one I can see a scorecard. The Jacobs fight, I mean, I guess that you could find toss-up rounds to give him, but most people think Jacobs won that fight. And Derevyanchenko and Canelo, the second fight, they definitely beat him.
Ridiculous. Team Batman Boxing. Shout out to Team Batman Boxing. Everyone go subscribe and support. Saying where have you guys been? Feels like it's been a year. It's been like what, like a month or two?
It's been a month and a half or so. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's been that long. I apologize. My grandmother went to the hospital, so I've been taking care of her and stuff. And plus, work has been hectic. We have 2 events coming up in June 4th and June 18th in LA. So I've been matchmaking those cards to some degree and doing the promo work as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Gary, if you have any Texas fighters in smaller weight divisions,
I got plenty of Texas fighters. Just let me know what weight you need.
I
got the best 108 pounder in the world. You need a 108 pounder? I legitimately have the best 108 pounder, 3-0.
3-0.
Christian Romero. I have the best 108 pounder in the world. I'll take that. Bam's not a 108 pounder anymore. I have the best 108 pounder in the world if you want him.
Do you have any women fighters, women boxers?
What weight? Yeah. Yeah. What weight?
Honestly, guys, like that's the hardest to match up on the local scene. For
you want a 126 pounder?
Hold on. Is it 126?
I will give you a 126 pounder who will give you the fight of the night.
Let me see
if you hire, she will give you the fight of the night. I don't know if she's gonna win, lose, or draw, but she's gonna give you the best fight.
115 and 140 is what I need.
I need you to split the difference. I can 115. For 115, what kind of record are you looking at? Because I can get you Mandy Fuentes from Laredo, but she's got like 30, 45. So if you could put her with someone with 3-0, 4-0 like that, I don't think that would.
Even though I mean this fighter is like really amateurly credentialed, but she's only 1-0, so like that's not.
You don't want to do that.
No, you can't do that. No, it's rough. Frank in the chat saying, "I'll turn pro if you need me to, Matt." I'm Owen. Yes, thank you, Frank, for describing what debuting is.
Can the 115 do a little bit heavier than that, or is that as heavy as she goes?
I can maybe see.
I got a one. I think 18 or 22. She could probably do 18. Looking to make her pro debut.
118 making pro debut.
I will warn you, she's a 13-time national champion, so she's a good fighter. But she's having trouble getting a promoter and to the opponent full out, and getting on cards and things like that.
Dude, you know how divas are, man. They're the worst. Dude, every fighter on the local scene acts like they're Floyd Mayweather. I don't know if that's just an LA thing. It's very annoying.
I love it. But it was Cam Awesome said, "I'm tired of amateurs telling me they have a record of 108-3. I saw you lose at Nationals 6 years in a row." How are you 183? You lose 6 years in a row.
It's rough. But
anyway, Cam Awesome is he still around?
I have no idea. If he is, I mean, he's not doing anything tremendous, right? Because we would hear about him.
He's not doing anything awesome. Yeah.
When you give yourself a nickname like that, you're really setting yourself up. Like, I'm just being honest about that. Daniel Edwards in the chat saying Triple G was smart. He turned heel and avoided the Canelo fight. Claim he beat him twice already. No,
this is his last fight, though. He wants to get paid.
Okay, and okay. Canelo lost to Mayweather, Laura, Triple G twice.
Okay, he obviously lost to Mayweather.
Yes, no one's.
You're right about the Laura fight. He didn't lose to Triple G. I would say he lost to Trout, although I could see that going either way.
Okay. You know me, guys. Huge fan of Cuban boxers. Shout out to Cuba. As you can see. And also Cuba allowing pro boxing.
Yeah.
That Andy Cruz is about to fuck up the entire scene, okay?
We'll see how he translates. Not all standout amateurs translate the pro level, but we'll see.
I'm betting, Gary, I'm gonna be like you now with like Hector Tanahara or like these other guys. Like, I'm telling you, man, he's a future champion. I 1000% the future champion. But digressing, Laura did not land anything significant in that entire fight. Anything. What did he land that was significant, people? Can you remember a single
lots of jabs?
I don't even remember him landing jabs, really. Like, he was just moving so well that Canelo was missing 90% of the time. And then, like, he would occasionally throw a jab. Occasionally. But, again, occasionally Canelo would land a body shot. What's more effective, people? a
But
single body shot around.
it's not a 1-for-1 thing. It'd be like 5 jabs and then 1 body shot. So,
Gary,
like, okay, I gotta go for the 5 jabs then.
Gary, let me jab you in the face and let me hit you in the body, okay? And let's see, anecdotally at least, which one is more effective. The body shot is guaranteed more effective.
Fair point. Fair point. If you say I'm gonna jab you 5 times in the face, or I'm gonna drill you once in the body, I'll take the 5 jabs. You're right about that. I give you that argument. Laura still won that fight, but that's a fair point.
And it wasn't like these were power jabs either by Laura. These were defensive jabs on the back foot, moving very well. And again, I will give him that. That Laura's defensive work in that fight was amazing. Canelo definitely didn't have anywhere near the ability he has now in terms of footwork, head movement, basic things. To be quite honest, he was a very rudimentary fighter back then. That's why like Mayweather and Laura like schooled him in that regards to movement. But Mayweather made him pay. Mayweather was like hurting Canelo. People forget that, but like Mayweather was like actually putting on really good offensive work against Canelo Alvarez, while Laura was dancing around, and that's fine. I'm a big fan of Laura, big fan of Rigondeaux too, but like sometimes you don't win. It's okay.
And this thing like that, everyone is going to take the Laura blueprint and beat Canelo that way is ridiculous. First of all, Canelo is way better now than he was. That was literally like 10 years ago. Okay? And B, you're not Laura. So that's like 2 strikes right there. Canelo's better, and you're not as good as the guy that fought him that way, right? If Laura fought Canelo again that way, Canelo would beat him up. You're not going to stay on the back foot for 12 rounds and avoid Canelo. I'm not saying stand in and trade with him for 12 rounds, but there are going to have to be spots where you're going to have to stand your ground and you're going to have to exchange with him. You're not going to run from him. Eventually, you're going to tire, and he's going to break you down and stop you, which is what we see every single time, which is exactly how I said the Caleb Plant fight would go. You can't sit there and run from Canelo like it's a race. It's not going to work. And everyone tries to execute that. No, you're going to have to sit in and trade with him. That's why, like, who can beat him? I don't think anyone. If I had to pick someone like Beterbiev or Benavidez, but it's not going to be, you're not going to have a track meet and beat Canelo. He's going to break you down. He's way too skilled.
Quickly, we're going to get to Spence and Ugas just because I have to go get my kid at some point from school. He can hang out there for some time. It's fine. Don't worry. But Spence Ugas is clearly the big time event of the weekend. And I think it's a really intriguing fight. I mean, this is one that I think is extremely difficult comparative to, I think, our predictions for like him fighting Danny Garcia or Sean Porter or even like a hypothetical Keith Thurman fight. Ugas presents, I think, a lot more issues for Spence relative to those guys at the time that he's fought them. Interesting though, because I can get like on this for those that don't know, like if you like work with a promotion or something like that, there's a different version of Box Rec, if that makes sense. We can see a lot more details with the commission stuff because that's why it's there to work with the commission. But they also have a fun thing where you can see like Box Rec has a win probability rate, stoppage probability rate. It says Earl Spence has a 67% chance of winning. Ugas has a 21% chance of winning, but Ugas has a 41% chance of stoppage, while Spence has a 12% chance of stoppage. And I feel like that's, I mean, other than the extremes of the 76%, it's kind of on track. Like Spence should be the favorite, but to win by decision. Ugas, if he's going to win, is by stoppage. So I can see Ugas definitely hurting Spence, definitely catching him, because Ugas is sneaky with his accuracy. He's sneaky with his shots. I think he can definitely connect on Spence mid-shot. I think the jab is going to be interesting. I think Ugas might have a better jab than Spence, so that would be, again, intriguing in this matchup. But Ugas has a better chance of stopping Spence than vice versa.
I don't think there's a stoppage in the fight. I think this thing goes to distance. Both guys can punch, but I don't see anyone getting a stoppage in this fight. I think this fight, and I've been on the Ugas bandwagon for a while. Like I've been on that. Ugas is one of those guys. I compare him to Manu Ginobili in the NBA, right? Like you say, okay, he's good, but he's not like a great fighter or anything. And then everyone who shares the ring with him, or everyone who in Ginobili's class, everyone who played against him, also he's like the best guy I've ever played against. Kobe Bryant said Ginobili was the hardest guy to guard. Westbrook said he hates guarding Ginobili. JJ Redick just on his podcast was saying with KD, he was like, I've never had to guard KD because of the size, but I had to guard Kobe and Ginobili. Like that's the class his peers put him in, right? And everyone you talk who's fought Ugas, you say who's the hardest fight you've ever had, they all say Ugas. Every one of them. I'm gonna pick Spence. I think Spence is a little naturally bigger and naturally stronger, but I think this is a really 50-50 fight. Like, both guys love to go to the body. Both guys have pop. Both guys have skills. Both guys are athletic and they have boxing skills. And they can both grind away on the inside. This is a really, really good fight. I'm going to take Spence via, I'll say like a majority decision. Where he does just enough to win. But I think this is a really, really competitive fight. And people who are thinking like this is kind of a tune-up or a get-ready fight for Crawford, you guys are really, really wrong. Ugas is top-notch. He's an A fighter. Spence might be an A+ fighter.
I think I pretty much echo everything you said. I think Spence is probably going to win this one by decision. It's going to be a pretty brutal fight, right? I think. I don't think this is going to be an easy fight in any regards. You might even see Spence get hurt in this fight. I think that's likely. You're going to see both guys get hurt. I think Ugas tends to be at times with the particular style to be not timid, but to not really be as effective with his output. Spence, I think, is going to bring out the best of Ugas and vice versa. So I'm really excited for this matchup. And obviously, I think after this, we're going to get Spence Crawford. I think that's just what's going to happen. I think all the forces will push for that. It has to.
I think Crawford's going to go up to 54.
Stop it.
That's what I think. Because I think he's going to go up to 54. Now, does he come back down to 47? I don't know, but I think he goes up to 54, which would be good news. You know why? You know what would likely be the mandatory fight for his if he vacated his WBO belt? You know who would fight for it if they went with 1 and 2 in the rankings?
What?
Virgin boots. Would you like to see that? So you're picking Castano to win that fight with Charlo?
No, I'm picking Charlo.
Okay, so you'd get theoretically for the WBO belt at 54, you'd get Crawford versus Charlo. And at 47, for the vacant belt that Crawford vacated, you'd get Boots and Verge. That's a pretty good consolation prize for not getting a unification fight. That's pretty good.
No, it sucks.
Which one of those fights suck? Crawford versus Charlo or Boots versus Verge? Which one of those fights suck?
Comparative to Spence Crawford, they suck.
It's a consolation prize.
I don't want a consolation.
Pretty good one.
Nope.
I know. Well, I'm with you. I've been asking for this fight for 5 years now. No. I've been asking for this fight since Crawford was at 40. Right? Even before we became undisputed, like there's nothing at 140 for Crawford. So just go to 147 and fight Thurman or it was Pacquiao at that time or Spence. And so literally 5 years since 2017, I've been asking for this fight. Haven't gotten it. So I'm with you. Like this is like the new Mayweather Pacquiao. Like, is this ever gonna happen? And I don't think it's gonna happen, but we'll see. I think Crawford's more likely to go to 54.
I hate that. Anyways, also on the card, Francisco Vargas versus Jose Valenzuela, Isaac Cruz versus Yuriorkis Gamboa, another Cuban boxer, Cody Crowley versus Josito Lopez, Butia versus Titonius, both guys with some of the hardest names to pronounce. I mean, why would they do that? Brandon Lee versus Zachary Ochoa. Brandon Lee should win that fight.
Can we get a little bit better competition for Brandon Lee? I mean, he's ready. Like, I mean, there's no more point in let's get him real. No offense to Zachary Ochoa, but he's ready for a.
It's not a bad fight.
Brandon Lee should be fighting a top 15 guy. He's that good. He blows everyone out. Like, let's see.
Anyways, your boy Vito Milanicki is also on the card.
Not my boy.
I don't know about that. maybe other shows you've said other things. I don't know about that. We have no
I've
one to
never
go
said
back.
anything good about Vito Malnicki. I promise you that.
We unfortunately have no one to go back and play back the tape. So who will
We
know?
certainly have plenty. You can go back to YouTube and pull all of it.
I never tag him, so good luck finding it. He's not
We
really.
just had to look for the show near one of his fights. I'm sure we mentioned it, right? Like,
Oh, I mean, we
I've never said Vito Malnicki is an elite level prospect, a high level prospect, a future champion, anything along those lines.
dude. He's fighting Dan Carpensi. Okay, won the Carpensi.
Oh, is he? All right,
Yeah.
it's a name. All right.
I mean, Dan Carpensi is 9-4-1.
Why is Malnicki fighting on that card? He usually fights on all the Fox cards.
I don't know. It's PBC. It's PBC. It doesn't matter.
It's PBC, but they like to keep their like. You never see Omar Juarez or Joey Spencer fighting on a Showtime fight. It's always on a Fox card. They like to keep like each network kind of has a stable.
That is technically true, but they probably just wanted to fill a slot, and he wanted a fight, so they got him a fight. I'm guessing. And plus, he took an L recently, Vito. So like
He's won a few fights since then. He looked better. I'm not saying he looked good. He looked better in his last fight. He didn't look awful like he usually does.
Speaking of your boys, though, on the other card in the UK, Campbell Hatton is making his long-awaited return, I guess.
Another guy I've never said is a high-level prospect. But this is like the same thing I get with like Jet fans and Zach Wilson. Like, well, he'll be good one day. What makes you think that? You know how many fighters come along who are never good? Most of them. Like, what makes you think him? Because of his daddy? Like, there's nothing good about Kim. Just like there's, sorry if this ain't Jet fans, there's nothing good about Zach Wilson. Like, nothing. He's not going to be good.
Gary, he's 6-0 already. Okay, he's undefeated,
and he's got a loss too. He's got a hard out, which they gave to him. One of the worst decisions ever. But like, there's nothing good about it. Like, I'm not saying he's a bum or anything. But look at him. Okay, what about him makes you think he's going to be a good fighter?
Oh, nothing. Absolutely.
Nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like, sorry. Like, well, he needs to learn. Okay. If I just pulled an Uber driver out of the Uber and said, well, this is his first fight, he's going to be really good. What makes you think that? Right? Like, there's nothing about him that makes me think that he's a good fighter. So, I mean, Campbell Hatton's going to be good. Unlikely. Most people aren't. Right? He's not like a guy who he's hyper athletic where you can say, okay, I can see, like, Campbell Hatton. Like, there's nothing extraordinary about him. There's nothing out of the ordinary about him. Like, he's not going to be really good. Sorry. And I'm a Hatton fan. Like, I like Ricky Hatton. Everyone likes watching Ricky Hatton. Doesn't mean his kid's good. It's like LeBron James, right? LeBron James wants to wait to retire till he can play with his son, Bronny. I don't ever watch the Bronny James game. He averaged 6 points a game in high school. What makes you think he's playing in the NBA?
Dude, he's definitely in the NBA, okay? Just okay, just wait.
Okay.
Just wait, okay?
He's a junior in high school. He averaged 6 points a game. I mean, weirder things have happened for sure. Joel Embiid didn't even play high school basketball, right? So who knows, right? It just seems unlikely that a guy that averages 6 points a game in high school is going to play in the NBA.
Anyways, Conor Benn's also fighting on that card, I guess.
Big fight. Good fight for him.
Is it a big fight? Is it a good fight?
It's a good fight. It's good. That's the name I wanted for Verge. That's the kind of guy I didn't want Verge to fight a guy like McKinsey. I wanted him to fight a guy like this. I mean, yeah, why is it not a good fight? I mean, it's not a world title fight, but it's a good stay busy opponent. It's a good tough guy who's going to make you work. I mean, he's going to win, right? But it's a good opponent. It's a tough opponent. He's going to make him work. He's going to make him think. He's going to get a lot out of him.
Is he? When did he go down with Enos? What round did he go down with Boots? What round was that?
Wasn't that stopped because of the cut?
Stop, man. He was getting his ass beaten that
He was. It was bad. Like, but that's
his ass beat bad. It was not good. It was the first round, man.
It was.
It did stop because it was a cut and it was a no decision. That's right. That sucks. But he got his ass beaten that fight. It was not going to last more than that. Gary, like
he hasn't fought at all since then.
Exactly. It's been 2 years. And Conor Benn just looked like a monster in his last fight.
I
He
didn't realize.
destroyed Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri is better than Chris Van Heerden anyways.
I'm trying to find
in the
how
battle of the
long.
Chris's. Hold on. In the battle of the Chris's, Chris Algieri is definitely the better one.
Oh yeah, Chris Algieri's a good fighter though. I mean, he was just too small for 147.
And he destroyed him. So just move on. Go fight someone else. Anyone else.
He beat Matthew Hatton. I'm trying to. I can't. Even, how long ago did Van Heerden beat Matthew Hatton? I can't even find it on BoxRec.
Hold on. I have him up. Hold on.
Oh, here it is. 2013, 8 years ago. Oh, and he beat Sebastian Lujan.
That's
you know
like 11 years ago now.
2013. It's 9 years.
2022.
2022.
Oh, sorry, 9 years. Yes.
Yeah. And before that, he beat Sebastian Lujan. You know who Sebastian Lujan is?
No, who
That's
is
the fighter from Argentina who on I think it was Friday Night Fights. It might have been Showbox. That Antonio Margarito knocked his ear off, like ripped his ear off with a punch.
Oh, that guy.
I don't know that he's any good or not. I just know that he fought Margarito and Margarito punched his ear off.
Fuck. Poor guy, man. Damn, that's rough. Anyways, no, that's an awful fight for Conor Benn. Like, I'm disappointed in him. He could do anything's better than this. You just not fight.
But it was an okay fight for Enos at that time. Like,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't Ben either.
Whatever. Okay.
I mean,
at least you're consistent. That's fine.
Were we overjoyed about that matchup?
I mean, it was 2 years ago now. I mean, probably not. I'm not overjoyed about it, but it's. You're right. If he hasn't fought since then, and that was his last outing, I guess I have to kind of rethink. I think this is a good opponent. Maybe it's not a good opponent.
I mean, he lost to Spence back in 2015, right?
So everything is so. I mean, it seems like last year, but I guess it was 2015.
Okay, that's before I was even like in the sport, technically in media. That's how long ago it was. Okay,
were you in high school at that particular time?
No, I was in college.
Okay,
I was up living in Oregon. I was. I remember watching that fight. I might have watched it either in my dorm room or at the fraternity house. Because it was September 11th, 2015. Never forget. And I don't really remember where I was at when I watched that fight, but I probably watched the fight. I was a huge boxing fan at that point, obviously, because the next year I was in boxing media. But digressing, this is an awful fight for Conor Benn. Anyone's better. Anyone. Mario Barrios, better. Also on the card, Alicia Baumgardner is on the card, who had a great knockout against Terry Harper. She's been calling out a lot of fighters. I just wanted to see fight someone that I relatively know. Gary, do you have any thoughts on this fight? That you find someone that's 17, 11, and 1?
I don't know her opponent, so I'm not going to comment on it.
I mean, Gary, she's fought like. Yeah, this is rough. I mean, she's fought some like good fighters like occasionally, but she's. It's a long time ago. She's been around for a long time. She's taken a lot of L's recently. Yeah, this should be quick. Also, Jack Cullen on the card, I guess. James Metcalf, Luke Evans. I think these are people that Rob would want us to mention, and he would get mad at us if we didn't mention them, and he would say something in the group chat, so I'm mentioning them. But Gary, any other thoughts on Conor Benn?
No, that's all on Conor Benn. And Spence fight. Those are the two fights this weekend.
I think so. Is there anything else this weekend?
I want your thoughts on Ryan Garcia's performance. His first fight with.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Oh, that was horrific. That was. I mean,
that guy's horrific.
I'm not gonna say it's horrific. I'm not gonna say that. There's elements to it that I liked. I thought he was far more composed at times, especially in the early rounds. I liked that he was more of a stalking fighter, like he was stalking his prey in a sense in the ring. His defense still looked largely the same, and he just couldn't get his opponent out of there. I mean, that was the big issue. I mean, he was fighting a guy that he should be able to get out, and he wasn't.
Especially for the first 5 rounds or so, to go would not engage with him at all. I mean, I think
the rest stopped at some point. Like, it was crazy.
They weren't they didn't think To-Go was as athletic as he was. They thought he was more of a come forward guy. Like he couldn't move as well as he did. And To-Go was in survival mode early on. He didn't really start to engage until later in the fight. And Garcia hurt him. Like, you're not gonna knock everyone out. And besides that, Garcia won every single round. I had him up 12-0. I know the judges had it 10-2 and 11-1, but I thought he won every single round. And then he had knocked him down. You're not going to stop everyone. Again, it wasn't an entertaining fight. It wasn't a fun fight. But I don't see how you say it was an atrocious performance when you beat a decent guy and you dominate and win every round.
I mean, that's technically true, I guess. But I mean, I think your initial question was like, how did I think about him with Goosen, right? That was like,
sure, yeah.
I mean, I mean, a little bit of more composed. Like, that's what I saw. But I don't know if that's age. I don't know if that's a factor of just him having more experience. I don't know. I don't know if that's him being more edgier and darker because he's getting tattoos. So he's like, going to be like, oh, I'm going to march down my guy and be aggressive. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what his deal is. No one knows what his deal is anymore.
Goosen gave him an A. If you watch my interview with him, Goosen gave him
an A.
Yeah, I thought that was just as ridiculous as saying it was atrocious. Like, it's somewhere in the middle. It's C+, I would say. I didn't think it was a bad performance, but it wasn't
I want to give
Ryan.
A C+, B-. Like, that's just the reality. Like you say, he won every round, I guess. Dominating against a guy that's like top 15-ish, top 20. You're right. He's not going to stop everyone, but he should be able to stop that guy. And the fact that he didn't, I think, is a fallback on the coach and the trainer not being able to give him the right instructions in the corner in order for him to get the finish. Because he was dominant. It wasn't like he had to worry about adapting to his opponent and being, overcoming adversity. There was no adversity in the first 5 rounds. Like, you could have easily, as a coach, if you're in with your fighter enough, if you had that dialed in, tell him what to do to get that finish. And they didn't do that. Is that because their first fight? Is that because Goosen's not the best trainer in the world? I don't know. These are all questions that the masses can ask themselves as well. I wasn't largely impressed. Like, if this was Devin Haney that night, Devin Haney could have won. And that's wait, don't look at me crazy like that. You're muted, Gary, so I can't hear you.
I said I agree. Devin would have won. Devin would have outboxed him that day for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there was not his best night. That's for sure. That's why, again, the C+ rating, B- at best. But I don't know long term if the Goosen move was the right move. I don't know why him and Eddie Reynoso had the falling out. I mean, I know that they made comments about it. I've read the comments, but it could have been shit that could have been fixed and pieced up, honestly. And the fact that it wasn't is odd. Especially when, like, Canelo and Ryan seemed like they had a good relationship. But maybe that was all for show. I mean, that does happen. Gary, any other thoughts?
No. Again, Ryan's performance isn't going to make any new fans. Like, if you didn't think he was good before that, you're not going to change your mind after that fight. But it was okay. I mean, he did what he had to do. I mean, again, I don't think Ryan Garcia beats the top guys. I don't think he beats Haney. I don't think he beats Loma. Well, I guess Tio's gone. I don't think he beats those guys. I'm not that he's a bad fighter. It's just he doesn't beat Tank for sure. He's good. Either he's not ready or he's not ready yet, right? Like, he's not ready yet, or maybe he'll never, because those guys are really, really good. But I thought the performance was fine.
Fine. I like that.
It was fine. I said C+, B-. I think, yeah, it was like, it's not okay, this is must see television, but he did what he had to do.
Gary, I have to roll to go get my kid from school. Any final thoughts before we head out of here?
No. That is it. Please follow me on all forms of social media. Texas Boxing Scene. Please subscribe. It is Autism Awareness Month, and all proceeds from the channel go to autism research and recovery. Yeah, and that's it. From Texas to the world, thank you, and God bless.
And remember, like the show, share the show, all that, boring shit, I guess. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network. And remember, like Gary said, go subscribe over at Texas Boxing Scene. If you want a lot of, like, in-depth interviews at the gyms, at events, You want a guy on the ground, boots on the ground, covering the shit. Gary's the guy to subscribe to. So Texas Boxing Scene on YouTube. And like Gary said, it's Autism Awareness Month. So please subscribe, as all proceeds for Texas Boxing Scene do go to autism awareness. But digressing, what else do we have? Yeah, I have 2 shows coming up. Red Promotions on June 4th and June 18th. A lot of good fighters on the card. So if you're in the LA greater area and you want to go, hit me up. If you have fighters in mind that you want it to be on the card, hit me up. There may be slots open. But yeah, digressing. Remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Have a good one. Peace.